What's up everybody, Brian here with another video, and this video is not any gear related or gear review videos. This video is literally about handling rods and testing for their actions at the store or even in your house. So one of my biggest pet peeves is when I go to tackle shops, which I do a lot, and I see people testing rods and seeing how the action is on a rod, and they all do it the same way. Everybody walks up to a rod, they look at it, they kind of handle it, and then they do this. They shove the tip into the floor. That is not the way to test rod action. It doesn't tell you that much. Sure, you can kind of feel where the power is in the rod, but you're damaging the rod. You're putting wear and tear on the tip that you don't need to, especially if you have a tackle shop that's got a hard floor. Don't do that. And plus, you're not learning that much about the rod. Let me show you a way better way of testing a rod action, and actually this method is really good for comparing two similar rods to see the differences that you can't really tell just by reading the label. So to do this example, I'm going to take a 7-foot medium action spinning rod. I got 4 of them, and the way you do it properly is you grab it by the tip, you put your finger underneath the rod, and you lift. You just let gravity do the work and the weight of the rod handle to show you its action. So you can slide your finger up and down like a pendulum and kind of see where the softness of the rod starts. So this is a very soft tip. This is a 7-foot medium action Croix Legend X. So you can kind of feel the rod out by doing this. Way better. Now this is the cool part. You take a similar action rod. So you take a 7-foot, I'm going to take another 7-foot medium action spinning rod, which is the Shimano Expride. Now the Expride is what I would consider a slightly more fast, stiffer action medium 7-foot medium spinning rod. So this is a little stiffer, and I know for a fact that the Legend X is a much softer, more parabolic rod. But you can illustrate this by putting these two together. Grab the two, lift with your finger, and then let the natural action of the rod just kind of present itself. So if you notice, there's a couple things I'm learning by doing this. One is, as they kind of settle, the handle of the Legend X is going lower than the handle on the 7-foot medium X-Ride. That means it's softer, and the hump here at the tip is way higher on the Legend X. So the Legend X is softer on the tip and softer down the blank because of the curve is way bigger on the Legend X. So this tells me that the Legend X is a softer, way more parabolic rod than the Shimano Expride, but they're both a 7-foot medium action spinning rod. So even though these rods are the same length, the same power, the same action on the label, they're wildly different. So you can express this even more by moving your finger up. So as I move up, I notice that the Legend X tip is so soft. As I move my finger closer to the tip, the Legend X gets even more noodly, whereas the Expride kind of holds its shape. So this is a really cool way to compare your rods to see what really the differences are using gravity. So let's use the 7-foot medium X-Ride as the benchmark here because it's the fastest, most stiffest of the rods that I picked up here. So I'm going to pick up, this is a Shimano Conquest 854, I always forget the number. It's a Conquest 842, which is also a kind of parabolic soft action 7-foot medium spinning rod. So here's the Conquest 842 next to the Expride. So I'm going to put my finger here, let the rods kind of settle, and I'm noticing that the Conquest handle is dropping lower than the Expride, and there is a slightly bigger bump. It's not as soft as the Legend X, so I would say the Legend X 7-foot medium is the softest of the 3. Then the Conquest would be the second softest, and the Expride would be the stiffest. And the Expride's not even that stiff, so it's kind of an interesting test. So if you notice, look how much lower the handle is going on the Conquest 7-foot medium versus the Expride, which just shows you it's a softer rod, even though they're both 7-foot medium fast action rods. So, I don't know, does this say... It doesn't say the speed on the X-Ride, but I know it's fast. Anyway, so that's a great way to compare. I want to take 2 rods real quick that are kind of, this is an interesting case. So if you're a Megabass guy, everyone says, what's the best Megabass shorter jig rods. You'll either hear people say the Perfect Pitch or the Destroyer FMJ. Well, here's the Destroyer FMJ, and here's the Perfect Pitch. Now, this is not a rod review. I'm just showing that you can use this method to really show rod characteristics easily without shoving the rod into the floor. So it's not really a review on either of these rods, but what's cool is the FMJ Destroyer is a 6-power jig rod. The Perfect Pitch is a 7-power jig rod, but a lot of people use a Perfect Pitch for like frogging, throwing big swim baits. Well, like not big swim baits, but like 6-inch meg drafts. So it's rated up to 1.5 ounces, the Perfect Pitch, and the FMJ is also rated up to 1.25 ounces. So the FMJ has less power than the Perfect Pitch, but watch this. So when you do my finger trick here, I'm going to lift these up. This is actually really interesting. When you take the Perfect Pitch and compare it to the FMJ side by side, you notice something immediately. The action on the FMJ is way stiffer. So the FMJ is a purpose-built jig rod, where the Perfect Pitch can be more of a multi-purpose tool. If you notice, like, it's crazy that the FMJ is a 1 power lighter, but it is completely stiffer. So if you're shopping for these rods and you're looking at the FMJ or the Perfect Pitch, actually I probably might make a whole separate video on this, maybe later. But anyway, the point is, this reveals that while the Perfect Pitch has a stronger power rating, the action on this rod, on the Perfect Pitch, is much softer. I mean, look how much lower the Perfect Pitch drops. So the FMJ is a super stiff, extra fast bottom contact rod, whereas the Perfect Pitch could obviously be used for more versatile techniques, and a lot of people like to throw mag drafts with the Perfect Pitch and moving baits, and that's why. I mean, look at it. Perfect Pitch has way more tip than a way softer tip than the FMJ. So this method of testing rods reveals a lot of information. Try it at home. Grab a few of your rods that are kind of the same length and actions and put them on the finger roll, or whatever you want to call this, and test them out and see what their actions truly are, using gravity instead of shoving your rods into the floor. If you go to a tackle shop and you jam a $600 rod's tip into the floor to test its action, you're part of the problem. Don't do that. Drives the guys at the stores nuts. Use this method. It's way easier on the rods, and you learn more. So that's all. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. See you in the next video.